And the commiserations, just your assessment on that game first, please.
Yeah, tale of two halves from a performance point of view for me. I'm real pleased with what we did in the first half. The stuff that we worked on during the week in terms of ball movement and trying to isolate their three men in Lewis and Abdul. I thought it worked really, really well for us, and it allowed us to generate some ruck tempo and allowed us to play on the front foot. And then probably the 30-minute mark, just a couple of unforced errors crept in on the back of some breaks. Sometimes you've got to tip your hat to the opposition. You know, when Beretta makes the break, Ryan Hull comes back and knocks it out with his hand. You know, and those moments, you know, shifted the momentum, I felt, just leading into half-time into Hull Kingston Rovers' favour, because they ended up having a little bit of good ball field position in that first half. So, you know, that was a little bit disappointing. Second half, we just couldn't maintain the way that we played in that first half. You know, it was a nip and tuck game. The team made the decision, you know, to take the one-pointer. I think it was around about the 60-minute mark, because I didn't think there was going to be much in the two teams. Both defences probably were on top. And then we come up with, you know, the error off the kick-off. You know, two senior players don't deal with it. It goes into touch. And then the work that we've done to get ourselves in front by a point for 20 minutes, it's undone in the space of 30 seconds, because we give them the field position. We don't quite control the ruck as well as we needed to, and the person that we spoke about probably more than any one other player was Parcell, and we get a real quick ruck and he runs from dummy half and just falls over the line. It's just, you know, a real coach killer, and a real kick in the guts because of the work that we've done to get ourselves in the position we did. And then the last 15 minutes, you know, we created some opportunities, but just that final pass, you know, the timing on the edges just a little bit off, and I think that was due to a little bit of fatigue and the pressure of the game.
Do you think fatigue's the main reason for that sort of drop off in the second half? Was it overplaying at times, sort of lapse in concentration? There's a little bit of fatigue and there's a little bit of lapse in concentration. Some attention errors, you know, crept in. But the best teams nail those opportunities. You know, we saw last night, and obviously I watched the game, and you know, Paul Welland spoke about that timing of the edges to be able to get John Bennison flying down that sideline. We ended up creating 2 or 3 opportunities where we've got space for our edges to fly down the sideline, and they're just not quite nailing that timing, and the pass just isn't quite in front, so they don't have to check the stride, and if you don't have to check your stride, it allows you to get past that opposition defender. So, you know, they're really fine margins, and that's the, you know, the difference between Super League and other competitions. You've got to nail those opportunities, and unfortunately we didn't. It just came to time, particularly in that first half, of being a bit more clinical. You know, obviously with the benefit of hindsight, if you get a second try and a bit more of a cushion, that could be a completely different game. Yeah, definitely.
You know, the try we scored, you know, was a good one. But yeah, that first half, you know, there was 3 or 4 opportunities where, you know, we've created an overlap and, you know, just haven't picked the right pass. I'd be disappointed if we weren't creating any chances, but what we've got to do now is, you know, start converting those chances.
Barring the result, obviously, I imagine plenty of positives you can take from that game going forward. Then.
Yeah, definitely. I think the big thing for me over the last probably, you know, barring the Warrington game and Huddersfield game, you know, since that, you know, we've competed really hard in every game. We look far more resilient defensively. Teams are finding it hard to break us down. I feel as though we're doing a better job in the ruck in terms of stopping teams, getting momentum in that ruck area. So there is some, you know, positives to take from the game, but the positives to take from the game aren't getting us 2 points on the competition ladder, and that's what we desperately need.
There's no Niall Eccles. What was his issue?
Yeah, Niall, unfortunately, picked up a bit of a bug, the dreaded diarrhoea and sickness. So he didn't train Monday, didn't train Tuesday, and on our day off, you know, he was, you know, still on the Wednesday, which meant he'd missed a fair bit of training. He'd missed a fair bit of preview and video work and on-field reps. So I took the decision, you know, not to go with Niall, due to the aerial bombardment and how much Hull Kingston Rovers' stretcher was a fullback, and I just didn't feel as though Niall's energy would be where it needed to be against a very, very dangerous team. He jumped on the scales and he'd lost 4 kilos, so his strength would have been a little bit down. So in hindsight, I think I'm glad I made the decision that I did. But Niall is certainly someone that we need back playing and getting back to his best form.
Greg Eden, obviously at full back in his absence, how do you think he did? I know you mentioned the sort of aerial onslaught that Hull Carrigan throw. I think Byron moved once or twice, he got under his ball.
I can't recall Greg dropping one. I think he caught everyone. The one what he did drop was, I thought it was a tackle in the air from Lachlan Cope, but we didn't get any of the decisions. I thought there were a lot of 50-50s and they ended up being 60-40s because Rovers tended to get the bounce of the ball and got a few penalties which I think were a little bit unfair and a little bit unjust. So yeah, no, he did a good job, Greg. He's a real talented player and good as a winger, but he's equally as effective as a full back, and I thought he did a good job running out the back.
Just on the injury front, how's Joe Westerman?
Yeah, he's fairly shaken up. He's okay, talking. They just need to check obviously for any facial fractures, but it was a hefty challenge. And it was a key moment again in the game. I think Joe was really organising some shapes which were threatening Hull Kingston Rovers, and he goes off due to, I won't say it was foul play, it was just a rugby league collision, and obviously head straight in the mush for him, which meant he wasn't able to return. So the good thing, touch wood, is we've got 12 days to his next game, so he should be available for selection, and we're a far better team when Joe's playing.
What do you make of that contact itself? As you said there, it was sort of head to head, it seemed accidental, but we've seen players at times this season, they've sinned in for what seemed as a...
Well, that's the issue with it, it's the inconsistency. Head clashes, the big concussion protocols and all this sort of stuff, and protecting people ahead. It was a direct head into the face. You can talk about the timing and that type of stuff. The shoulder contact obviously was legal, but the head hit Joe straight in the face. We've seen instances last year where blokes get sin binned. He's not obviously a malicious player, Kane, but I thought it was a hefty challenge, and it probably warranted maybe spending 10 minutes in the sin bin, albeit it wasn't deliberate. It was just one of those unfortunate accidents which can happen in the game, but the fact that Liam Watt spends 10 minutes in the sin bin for a push on Jordan Abdul, and the same consequence isn't afforded to obviously Kane. So yeah, strange one, but that's the way it is.
What can you do as a coach when there's sort of frustrations like that about the sort of clarity around those sorts of incidents?
I've always been a big believer in control what you can control. The guy in the middle is like us, he's like a player. They're going to make mistakes. They don't mean to make mistakes. They'll probably look at it on review and say, yeah, I probably got that decision wrong. That one I got wrong. Just like the players, I've made that poor read, I've picked the wrong pass there. They're all human. I'm very much control the controllables. You can't control, obviously, the referee. Sometimes you just got to, suck it up. Bite down a little bit hard on that gum shield, and if you feel as though you're up against a referee, try and take him out of the situation by just concentrating on playing well. So that's a big focus for us.
And just finally for me, any other injuries or you found?
I didn't really spend much time in the change room. I gave him a little bit of a dressing down afterwards, and got myself into the coach's room. So I will do our checks and everything in the morning. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
No worries.
What was the dressing down around? Was it when you gave the team?
The dressing down was around the man who now there scored the points. How we're mentally just not coming up with the right plays when we're fatigued. And I just think we need to show a little bit more mental toughness in those periods. So I told the guys that not in an angry way, but a stern way, that I want us to be tougher in those moments and start coming up with the right decisions, because it's been a little bit the story of our season. And the case in point was taking the drop kick and then not dealing with a kick off and then conceding straight away. It's like we can't do that. You've got to be better than that.
on the other side of the ball, you got some more adventure and attack. Even though you got 7 points, do you think you made strides in attacking?
Yeah, I did. I thought we moved the ball really, really well in, you know, that first half, and even, you know, in the late stages, we got down the edges a couple of times. We just didn't have that, you know, top end execution just to make that a real clear-cut chance. So the work that we've done this week has showed some promise in the performance. You know, we've just got to keep working at it and keep working on that timing and that finer detail in terms of execution, and we create those opportunities moving forward. You know, we'll start converting them.
And we're all on summer, I guess, because every time you come down here it's raining.
Yeah, it's raining all the time, and you know that brought obviously Jordan Abdul's left foot into play even more. You know, and I think, you know, that was, you know, fair play, you know, to Hull Kingston Rovers. You know, when a team's got momentum and they're playing, you know, red hot, they was able to find a way to win, and that's a good sign for them as a club, and it's a good sign for obviously Willie as a coach that, you know, they maybe weren't at the best. I didn't think we allowed them to be at the best, so, you know, we'll take a little bit of credit for that. But they was able to find a way to win, and you know that's a good sign for them in where they want to be. What we've got to do, we've got to start just converting a little bit of the chances that we're creating, and you know start moving ourselves up the table.
And did it feel any different to you? You know, first game as permanent manager, or was it absolutely the same as far as?
No, it felt a little bit different for me. I felt, how could I put it, that my words were carrying a little bit more weight. The fact that they know now that I'm sort of like the master of some of those players' fate, in terms of if they carry on performing poorly and we carry on losing, there's every chance that I might be, you know, saying unfortunately, you know, you're no longer going to be part of obviously Castleford Tigers, because you know it's getting to that point now. You know, it's May, that contract time, and you know a lot of those players are looking for renewals and being retained, etc. But all the time that we're getting beat and aspects of performance isn't where it needs to be, it makes it difficult to obviously, you know, keep them. So, you know, it did feel a little bit different, and I'm hoping, you know, the work that we've done this week, we'll be able to continue that next week, and you know, we'll get in an improved performance and hopefully get the result against Leigh.